Hello, my name is Maria Vizcaíno. In this second video, we are defending our digital portfolio. Our objective was to reflect on how digital culture, media influence, and global educational exchange are transforming education. Each of us selected two meaningful artifacts, analyzed what we knew before and what we learned, and reflected how future students' exchange might look. My topic is digital culture. Artifact 1. In this article examines the generational and technological gap between students who grew up with digital tools and teachers who had to adapt to them later. Artifact 2. In this infographic highlights the essential elements of modern classroom, including access to devices, digital learning tools, flexible environments, and statistics of how technology impacts motivation, efficiency, and teaching practices. What I knew. I knew students used social media and devices constantly, but how deeply these habits influence in their cognitive processes. What I learned. And digital culture doesn't just change how students access information, it changes how they think, communicate, and learn. As educators, we must adapt by designing more flexible, student-centered, and technology-aware pedagogies. Reflection of future students exchange. I think future students exchange will be hybrid. Students will connect virtually through collaborative platforms and in-person mobility and will be complemented by digital progress. The challenge will be ensuring students have the same level of digital access and that exchange don't become superficial or purely virtual. Thank you.
Hi everyone, I'm Jared and my topic for this case is media influence in education. So for the understanding of the topic, we use a report from UNESCO on media and information literacy. This report explains why students need to critically analyze media messages, navigate misinformation, and understand digital citizenship. We also read a European Parliament report on media literacy policy that highlights the importance of integrating media literacy into school curricula. Now, about my reflections for this third period, what I knew was that media influences students because of social media, but I didn't fully grasp how much this information and algorithmic bias shape young people's views. Now, what I learned was media influence is not just a matter of entertainment, but is deeply educational. Students need a structured teaching on media literacy to evaluate sources critically, resist misinformation, and engage ethically online. That's why, through my reflection on future student exchanges, I consider media will be a bridge. Students from different cultures will not only travel but also co-create digital content. However, they will need strong media literacy skills to collaborate responsibly and understand each other's media landscape. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Charlie Ribon and I focus on cultural exchanges and future trends. Well, for this part, we use a scholarly chapter titled New Trends in International Education, Impact of COVID-19 and Digitalization on Higher Education and Student Mobility. Well, this chapter describes how students' exchanges are evolving with virtual mobility, hybrid programs, and the role of digital transformation. And the second artifact is an article titled 8 Trends Shaping the Future of Education through 2013 from Full Fabric, which highlights hybrid learning, global economic change, and flexible exchange models. Now, let's talk about what I knew and what I learned. Well, I knew that students' exchanges were mostly physical and that studying abroad was a traditional model. Now, what I learned. I realized that exchange is becoming more flexible and digital. Virtual mobility and hybrid programs will democratize international experiences, but they also face challenges like digital inequality, visa policies, and cultural integration in online spaces. Finally, I think that future exchanges will be multimodal. Students will attend virtual global courses, participate in study abroad programs, or engage in project-based global classroom. The key challenge is ensuring equitable access and meaningful intercultural communication.
Hello, teacher, it's Paula. So, for this part of the portfolio, it is about the chapter 7 that was assigned to us about access to technology, equity, efficiency, and sustainability. What we decided to do was put two artifacts, the chapter that you assigned to us and the video reference that we made about that chapter. That's why I will not elaborate on this part of the portfolio because in the video reference we explain everything about that first artifact. And that's also why we decided in group that it would be better if I chose another topic that I was interested in and find other artifacts about it. That's why you will find two pages regarding cultural exchanges, future trends, and challenges. I decided to put three more artifacts besides the one that my partner Charlotte mentioned, and that's what I will explain in the next video. Hello, teacher. My name is Paula, and right now I want to explain the artifacts that we chose for this part of the portfolio. This first artifact is a podcast episode from the European Association for International Education, an organization that works with international education. In this episode, the speakers talk about how student exchange programs are changing today, like the Erasmus Plus. They mention things like making programs more inclusive, using hybrid or online options, and giving students more emotional support when they study abroad. We chose this artifact because it shows what professionals are actually discussing right now, and it gives a real look at how cultural exchanges are adapting to new needs and new trends. The second artifact is an article which is called Mapping Research on International Student Mobilities, a 2024 review. This second artifact, well, it is an academic article that reviews many studies about international student mobility. It explains what researchers have been studying in recent years, such as virtual exchanges, students' experiences, and how global changes affect mobility. It also shows the gaps, what still needs more research. We picked this article because it gives a solid, evidence based overview of how student exchanges are evolving, and it helps us understand the bigger picture behind current trends. For the third artifact of this part of our portfolio, we chose an infographic from Project Atlas, a group that tracks global student mobility. The visual shows where most international students come from, where they go, and how these numbers are changing. It is easy to read and it helps us clearly see the main patterns of cultural exchange around the world. We chose it because visuals like this make complex information simple and help connect the data to the trends discussed in the podcast and in the article that we also chose for this part. Now I would like to tell you my reflection on future student exchanges. I believe that it will combine both online and in-person experiences. Technology will let more students connect across countries without actually having to travel, but traditional exchange programs will still be important for real cultural immersion. I think that a big trend will be making exchanges more inclusive, so students from different backgrounds can participate. However, we consider that changes will continue. such as access to good internet, financial limitations, and political or visa issues. Even with these problems, I still think that cultural exchanges will keep growing and changing in creative ways, giving students more opportunities to learn from one another. Or at least that's what I hope, because as an English student, I think that these exchange programs are really helpful for us and necessary, because learning a second language and not having interaction hand to hand and face to face, it's difficult to actually learn the cultural patterns and everything that we have to learn about the language and about the cultures that we are going to someday teach on our classrooms.